Ooh, that's a first. Hey Garden Maters, welcome to Corner Homestead. So I'm back in the kitchen today and I'm getting ready to do up a soup. I am on a mission this time to do some soup for the winter. And I am making my all-time favorite today, which is the cabbage soup. Now a lot of people have called this the Dolly Parton soup. Other people just call it a guaranteed weight loss soup. How it got these names I do not know, but I just love the taste of the soup. Personally, I just think it is absolutely delicious and I can never get enough of it. Every time I make it, I am usually the one that eats it all. Over time, of course, but I'm usually the one that eats it all. So it may not be everyone's favorite, but I think if you try it, if you love cabbage in particular, I think you will definitely like it. Now I do variations of my type of cabbage soup. I don't follow the recipe to the strict that's out there on the internet and everywhere that's being published. I always add my own things to make it taste better. So I'm going to show you exactly what I use, and I hope you do try this soup because it is delicious. Now one thing I am going to do as well when I get finished making this soup, which takes absolutely no time hardly at all, 10-15 minutes to actually cook the soup. Once it's done, my goal is to jar it up, can it up, and have it on the shelf for the winter. If it lasts that long. It might not last that long. But I'm going to do a double batch of it today. We're going to get it pressure canned. I've got my jars cleaned and waiting to go. It's going to be a busy day in the kitchen. Let's get started. So the recipe for the cabbage soup, for one thing, it does not require or call for any meat whatsoever. That is one thing I always change. I use whatever I may have on hand. If I don't have meat left over into the refrigerator, I always use some ground beef. So that is what I am doing. I have my pot on right here. Not sure if you can see it. I think you can a little bit. I've got 1.5 pounds of ground beef in there, browning it, because I always start a little bit with ground beef. Like I said, I do change the recipe to my own liking, as you should as well. I have a little bit of ham left over. I'm going to dice this ham very small, and I'm going to add it to the soup as well. It's going to give it a little bit of extra flavor. Now the recipe does call for onion. I have 2 of them sliced up and ready to go right here. Now because I'm doing double the recipe, I'm going to need 4 onions in total. Also, it calls for 2 bell peppers. I do not have bell peppers. I never put bell peppers in this soup because I tried it one time with bell peppers and I did not care for the taste. So I leave it out. If you're making it per instruction for the recipe, it would be 2 bell peppers. You will need 5 stalks of celery, chopped. Again, don't have any celery on hand, so what I am using is the celery that I have canned up from before. I'm just going to put a whole jar of my canned celery in there because I believe that's at least 5 stalks in there. You need 1 head of cabbage, and the amount of cabbage will depend on how much you like it. If you like a lot of cabbage, you could buy a large head of cabbage. If you do not want that much cabbage, get a smaller head. So I do have like a medium-sized cabbage, have it in my bag. This is still frozen and sealed. This is how I do my cabbage. I buy it all the time in March when it comes on sale for St. Patrick's Day. I slice it, shred it, and I put it into these bags and seal it and stick it in my freezer. That is where I keep it. You can also can your cabbage. Just haven't got around to doing that yet. You need at least 1 large can of diced tomatoes. This is the type that I use, but you can use any type, just what I have on hand. If you like extra tomatoes, you can always put extra into it. One other thing you need is 1 packet of the Lipton beefy onion mix. This is the magic to this soup to me. It just gives it the best taste. So the beefy onion is you need 1 envelope per recipe. So because I'm doubling the recipe, I will use both of these envelopes in here today. This gives it a great flavor, but I will most likely add also some beef bouillon cubes. To me, it just makes it just a little bit better. Other thing you will need is some garlic. If you have fresh garlic, you'll need about 5 or 6 cloves of garlic for each batch that you are making. I don't have the fresh garlic. I'm going to be using my minced garlic today, so I'm just going to be putting in about 2 tablespoons of garlic. And that's pretty much it. That's all you need for this cabbage soup. So let's get this soup together so we can get it canned up. Okay, so I tried to put the camera up high enough to look into this pot, but it still isn't quite as good. But here's the ground beef all cooked. I'm going to turn my flame back on. Okay, so I went ahead and I chopped up the rest of my ham that I had, and I got my on the plate here with the onion, so I'm going to add that into the pot. Like I said, the ham is just going to give it extra flavor. If you don't have extra ham, of course, like I said, don't bother about adding it. So it does not really call for any meat whatsoever in this recipe, so it's not mandatory to put it in. So I'm just going to let this cook just a little bit. Not very long at all. Okay, so this is cooked a little bit. Like I say, you don't have to do it much at all, but now I'm going to add in the 2 packets of the Lipton beefy onion soup. Well, it's soup and dip mix. I'll go ahead and get that a good toss. That really adds flavor to this. Now I'm going to put in the big cans of diced tomatoes. Get open my jar of celery. Ah, there, that wonderful pop. Oh, it smells so good, celery. Dump the whole thing in, juice and all. If you watched my video when I canned the celery, I had said that when you can it, to make sure you use the juice because it's so flavorful. And it's the same way, it's the same with the tomatoes. When you put them in, you don't drain them, you just put juice and all. So I'm going to add a jar of water now because I just wanted to get out the rest of my celery. Cans of tomatoes, I'm just going to fill with water. I'm going to fill it twice and add 2 large cans to the soup. These are 28-ounce cans. So like I said, I just added two cans of that. I'm not sure how many cups it would be, probably about 8 cups, but eventually I'm going to be adding even more. So you want to put in, I'm guessing at least 12 cups of water, but I always fill the pot up. After I put everything in, I just fill it up. So now I'm adding 4 beef bouillon cubes. Okay, so we want to give this a really, really good mixing around here. So now, of course, the last ingredient is the cabbage. I'll take it out of my bag and just dump the whole thing in. Ooh, it's going to be all the way to the top. And that is good. That's what we want. I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to let this cook for about 20 minutes or so to get the cabbage. The only thing it has to do is thaw out and get incorporated in there. Then we'll be back. If you're using fresh cabbage, you don't have to cook it all the way. Not if you're canning it. If you want to cook it for supper and have it that day, you would cook it for until your cabbage is tender. So we'll give it 20 minutes and I'll be back. So after 20 minutes, because it still isn't really all that hot yet, you want to start tasting the flavors. To your liking. Nobody can really tell you what to make it taste like because it depends on how much of a flavor you like. Now I just got done adding. I know it's, can't see it from here. It is filled to the very top. But because this is such a big pot and I've doubled the recipe, I went ahead and added 6 more beef bouillon cubes. And I had about a cup of beef broth left, so I went ahead and put that in as well. The taste is entirely up to you. One thing I will not add is salt or pepper. I just don't think it needs it, especially with all the beef bouillon. So it's almost ready to be canned, so I'm working on getting the canning pot set up, and there is no reason why you cannot can this cabbage soup, as long as you follow the USDA recommendations by adding no thickeners whatsoever. But why would you want to thicken cabbage soup? But anything that has cornstarch or flour or rice, you never put rice and want to can that up into a soup, because, oh my God, no. Never can your soup with pastas in it. That's a no-no. So follow the USDA guidelines for canning recommendations, and you'll be perfectly fine. There is nothing in this soup that says you cannot can it by USDA standards. So that is why I choose to can it. Long before I got this canner, I would freeze it in bowls, and then I would take the bowls when they were frozen and I'd slide the soup into a food saver bag and just seal it up and keep it in the freezer. That's fine to do, but it takes up room in the freezer, and God forbid if the grid goes down, you're left with soggy soup for sure. You'd have to hurry up and eat it or it would go bad. So that's why I choose to can it now. So let's start getting it jarred up. Okay, so it is definitely time to jar it up. Like I said, it only cooked for maybe 20-25 minutes. Now I've got my jars here in very hot water. So the jars are hot. You don't want to put hot soup into hot jars. I mean, they're not scalding, but they are hot. And they're cooling off very fast. So we are going to just go ahead and get this soup put into, and I know I'm going to spill it all over the place. I just know it. That's a given. We're just going to go ahead and start getting it jarred up. It tastes and looks wonderful. I just love this soup. I can't help it. So because the canner only holds 7 quarts, these are quart jars I'm using, but because my canner does hold 7 quarts, that is what I'm going to fill. So I'm going to go ahead and get these 7 quarts filled, and I'll be back. I've got 4 of these completed. I know I said I'd do all 7 first, but you want to run down and make sure you debubble. This is so good, you want to risk no chance of anything going wrong. Okay, so I have my paper towel, and I've got it dipped in vinegar. I made such a mess, I really need to make sure I clean these very well. Clean all around it. They are so hot I can't even touch them hardly. Make sure they're very well cleaned. Then I'm going to put on my lids. And of course my rings. Now I did fill these quart jars up within the, giving it 1-inch space. Oh, finger tight is just still, it's really hard to hold them. They are so hot. Okay, and then these 4 I'm going to put into the canner, and then I'm going to do the other 3, and I'll be back. Okay, so this pot worked out perfect. I have this much left. That's going to be just enough for a nice bowl for supper. And all 7 quarts are now into the pressure canner. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and put the lid on, just inspecting the seal, making sure everything is looking good, and it is. So we'll get our lid on. And we'll go ahead and let it start the vent. So once the steam is coming out really well, we'll time it for 10 minutes, then we'll put our weight on. Now again, my area and my elevation is just 10 pounds of pressure. You may be different, as your soup may be different. But this is looking and smelling good. I've got a lot of cleanup to do in the meantime, and some soup to eat for later. So it's been venting for 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and add our weight. So now because this has meat in it, once this starts to jiggle, what I like to call rock and roll, we're going to set our timer for 90 minutes. Now that it's rocking and rolling here, we're going to put 90 minutes on the clock. Go, baby, go. So now that I've done my cleanup, and I got 90 minutes to wait, it's soup time. Like I said, it was perfect. One good bowl of soup, 7 quarts of soup. And this is not going to waste. Oh my God. Oh, this is so good. I love it. Oh my God, I just love the soup. I love it. I cannot contain myself. I just love it so much. And the good news is, because nobody else in my household likes this, I get to eat it all myself. I don't have to share it. Oh, that's a first. So as soon as this is done and it's cooled down and it's time to take the jars out, I'll be back. In the meantime, I got some soup to eat. It's just so good. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Yummy. Beautiful cabbage soup. My goodness. Oh, heavy. That's some heavy goodness there. Ooh, boy. There we have it. 7 quarts of goodness. So there you have it, garden maters. 7 beautiful quarts of cabbage soup that I will have for my pantry for the winter, provided they last that long. I can actually say it will not be enough. I will be making this recipe again, maybe in a 4-time batch, the way I love it so much. It's just so good. The bowl I had for supper, delicious. Ate every bit of it. You knew it was coming. So again, I hope I encourage you to make this soup or any soup and put it into your pantry. And like I said before, whatever you decide to can in soup, please never add any thickeners, noodles, or rice. USDA, it is not approved. And if you add it, I believe you will find out why it's not approved. It just doesn't work. So, but 7 quarts of cabbage soup, I am very, very excited about having that on the shelf. I will try my best to stay away from it. Can't make any promises though. So please feel free to share this video so YouTube puts it out there a little more for other people to make. And be sure to comment below if you have any questions, or if you make the soup, please let me know. I love to hear from my garden maters. Always love to hear from my garden maters. I do appreciate all the comments I have received on my past videos so far. And for all who have subscribed, I am truly grateful, honored, and blessed that you are with me. So please, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. I always encourage you to. It's always a pleasure to have you here, and I always look forward to our next time together. And until then, I love you all. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you on the next video. That's not how I say it, is it? No. I'm confusing myself again. I confuse myself. Just like I talk to myself. But boy, I really confuse myself sometimes. It's not old age. It's not senility. It's an earned privilege. And believe me, I have earned it.